Hi, everybody. It's Miss Lester. I'm still in Salt Lake City grading AP essays. I'm sure that I would much rather be with you guys at this point in the week, but I want to make sure that you are ready to submit your written assignments on time. So I am here to go over with you how to structure your thesis statements. So your first couple of steps, make sure you open up my written assignment preparation slides and find the slide that's labeled June 4th, 2019 Thesis Statement Workshop. You probably also want to go ahead and open up your Google document that you have been color coding and working on for the past couple of days. So go ahead, open those up in a couple of tabs in Chrome so we can get started. So the first thing I want to do is I want to show you the rubric for the written assignment. You guys have seen this before, but what I want to make sure that I emphasize is that the thesis statement is super, super important in your written assignment because it is scored on two different criteria. B, which is knowledge and understanding, that's right here, and D, which is organization and development. If you don't have a clear thesis, like argument for your paper, then you are not going to score well on your written assignment. And we want to make sure that everybody has 4s or above. In order to do that, you need a thesis statement. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and go on to the next step. So now that you've opened up your rough draft in Google Docs, go ahead and find the thesis statement, which mine, as it should be, is the last two sentences of my introductory paragraph here. I'm going to highlight it, and then I'm going to change the color to light green. Now you can see I've already done some work here before on my hook and made some notes about the things that I still need, but I want to make sure that I highlight in light green that tells me I'm working with my thesis statement today. Now, on the next slide, there's a checklist of things that you need in a thesis statement. What I also did is I hyperlinked here to the Purdue Online Writing Lab. If you've never used it before, it's a great online resource to basically teach you about thesis statements, what they're there for, and what they do. So there's a link to the online writing lab. And here is a list of things that a good thesis statement has. So make sure that you have a clearly articulated observation or literary element from the text. Make sure that you discuss the effect of that observation or what it does for the novel as a whole. And then the most important part, a larger implication that talks about the author's purpose or a universal truth that we see within the text that is created through that O and that E. You also want to make sure that it's the last sentences of the introductory paragraph. You want to make sure you're being specific to the text, mentioning the name of the symbol, the motif, the character, or other element you're going to talk about. You want to make sure you mention the author and title specifically, and make sure that it's complex and original, containing original ideas that are unique to you. So if you can check all those boxes, then you have a pretty good thesis statement. Now, the next couple of slides, I gave you a list of 4 thesis statements from different essays, written assignments that have been turned in at Baltimore City College. And on the slide after that, I gave you a table that gives strengths and weaknesses of each one, so that way you can compare them to yours and make sure that yours stack up well against them. So again, for the thesis statement, we're looking for clear and specific language, an observation effect, a larger implication. We want to avoid just listing out a bunch of literary devices because we want to stay focused on really one that shows up in the text several times. We want to avoid wordiness and vagueness. We want to be as specific as possible. So with all that being said, I'm going to show you how I would rewrite the thesis statement that I have in my sample written assignment that I've been working on here. So here's what it says right now. It says, in A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen, Nora, the central character, transforms from a subservient housewife to a questioning, independent woman due to the catalyzing effects of the other character's actions. The changes in Nora's character can be seen primarily through the contrast and symbolism in the play, but also through various other literary elements. So the first thing I would say, there's some great things going on in this thesis. The language is great, subservient, catalyzing. These are really specific words that'll score high in E language. I do have a reference to the original text and the author. The characters mentioned by name. So there's some good stuff happening here. But the main thing it's missing is a larger implication, a reference to a sort of universal truth or the author's purpose. So I'm going to make a note here that I need that. The other things I'm going to do, I really want to combine these two sentences to make them one, so that way I don't have a super long thesis statement. 3 sentences is really too long for a thesis statement. So I'm going to take a look at this second sentence and identify the key idea, which is contrast and symbolism, because here it talks about transforming and changing. So that's a little bit redundant. So all I really have to do is find a place to get this idea of contrast and symbolism in this first sentence. So I'm just going to put a comma after characters' actions and then add as well as contrast and symbolism, because I don't really need to repeat that idea about Nora's character change. So I can delete the second sentence. But now what I need is my larger implication. So I remember that in A Doll's House, Ibsen was basically using it to be an activist, to change the things that he saw as problems in Norway at the time, that Norway needed to be less patriarchal and more feminist. So I want to make sure that I mention that here. So Ibsen wanted to change Norway. Nora's changing, so I'm going to talk about paralleling, because that's happening in both instances. So I'm going to say Ibsen wished to see a change in Norway's attitudes toward women. Therefore, Nora's change as a character parallels the feminist change Ibsen wanted to effect in his country as a whole. Now, I'm not going to lie, I'm not a huge, I'm not in love with that wording, but it's there. What I might do is in the editing portion later on, I'll take a look at those words and see if I want to change them around a little bit. But the most important thing at this point is making sure that my thesis statement has all of the parts. I can change wording later on. So if you have questions, email me, tanya.luster@baltimorecitycollege.us. I'll be checking that kind of intermittently. And I will be back with you guys with another screencast tomorrow to talk about the next element that we're going to need. Have a great day. See you later.